Welcome to this Onshape tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be modelling this lovely little box. Let's get started. So the first thing we'll do is we will create a sketch looking down on the box to see the dimensions of all the walls. Let's start with a sketch and we'll select the top plane. Let's press N to view normal to. And we'll choose the center point rectangle to draw a rectangle. Let's type in the dimension of one of the sides, 100, and the other side, the same. That's the footprint of our box, so let's draw the plan view of the four walls. To do that, we'll draw overlapping rectangles like this. Make sure you see the little square indicating it's snapping to the edge of this corner here. And the same, we can see it snaps to the line here. We want to make sure we snap to the line. So with four walls drawn, we now need to add some dimensions. Let's use the dimension tool, or press D on the keyboard. And let's dimension the distance here. We'll make it 8. And the same for all four sides. Oops, made a mistake. Press escape. Let's delete that one. Let's try again. Press D. Oh, and again. So you notice now that the lines here are black and this one's blue. If they're black, it means that they are fully constrained. They can't be in any other position because the dimensions have been added. This blue line here, let's just escape out of that. We can see that if we click and drag it, it can be moved because there's no dimension to tell it otherwise. Let's press D and add that missing dimension. Double check, 888. Good. Let's close the sketch and use the right mouse button to rotate the view around. So what we're going to do now is we're going to extrude up the four walls of our box, and that will create separate parts down here in the parts section. Let's use the extrude tool, and we're going to extrude by clicking on rectangles one at a time to add to the selection. If you accidentally click on one, click on it again and it will remove it from the section. So let's make one wall and we'll make it 60mm high, and we'll do the same again. But we can't see the sketch now, so let's come over here and we look at the sketch. We can see a little eye icon. If we click on that, it will hide and show the different sketches. So let's show the sketch again. Use the extrude tool and do the opposite edge. Give it 60 again. Now you want to extrude these two, but we can't really see the bit of the sketch. So just like before, we can come down here and we can see we can hide and show the different parts of our model. Before we do that, let's just rename these. Now you might remember we've been labeling up our sides A and B, so let's right click and rename, and we'll call that A1. Press enter, right click, A2. It's good practice to rename the parts so that you keep track of what's what in your document. Let's hide both of those, and we'll use the extrude tool again, and we'll extrude up the other two sides at the same time this time. Now because these parts won't touch each other, they will create separate parts. So we can do two at a time in this case. Let's make that 60. And make sure News selected, and we'll click OK. So we should now see four parts. What we can notice is that in the corner here they're overlapping each other. That's not a problem because we're now going to remove some material from that. But let's just rename our parts B. So we'll right click and B1, right click B2, happy days. So now looking at our drawing, we can see that part A here and here need to have a specific part cut out of them to create the finger joint, and the opposite of that needs to be in the part B's. So let's start with one of the part A's. Let's just select it so we can see where it is and rotate around by holding down the right mouse button. Let's just press space to deselect everything, and let's draw a sketch on that face. Just be aware that we can see the outline of what we're selecting. We want the orange outline to be the whole of this face here. Press N to view normal to, and we'll draw some rectangles that represent the piece we're going to cut out from both sides, remembering again to make sure we snap to this line. Now this line conveniently appears, and if we rotate around with the right mouse button we can see that line's there because it's part of this edge, it's part of this side of the box. And we'll do the same the other side, and then we'll use the dimension tool, press D, and we'll dimension this distance here and the finger distance, which is going to be 20, and again we can see these have now turned black, so they're fully defined. If we rotate our view around, we can see we've got a sketch on this side of this part A. To make things easier, let's hide part B's, because what we want to do is we want to cut this little rectangle section out, but cut it all the way through the whole part. So we'll use the same extrude tool again. This time we're going to, rather than clicking on new, we're going to go to remove, and we'll select both of those. And let's just drag this rectangle to remove them all the way through everything. But it's not quite removing it from this part there because we haven't selected it as part of the merge scope. So in this merge scope section down here, we'll click on that, and then we'll choose the parts that we want to apply this extrude to. So we can see that part A1 is already selected. Let's click on A2. Boom. We can see that now extrudes through that section there. And if we bring B back into the show, we can see that we're halfway there now. So we've got to somehow cut out of B what is remaining from A. So let's just clarify what we need to cut out. So we've got to cut out from B the top part and the bottom part. And we'll do a very similar thing. Let's use the sketch tool. And we'll select the side of part B. And we'll view normal to, press N. And then we're literally going to trace over these four rectangles. We'll draw one. Remember to make sure you snap with that little orange box onto the corners. You'll see that as soon as I draw this rectangle, it turns blue for a moment, then instantly turns black. It's because we've already snapped it to existing parts of our design. We'll turn off or hide parts A, and then we'll extrude those four corners up. Let's make sure we select remove. We'll remove it through all the different parts and change the merge scope to include B2. And when we now show part A, we can see we've now made four very nice finger joints. Good job, give yourself a pat on the back. So the sides are done. Let's make the base. We can make the base because we've already got the dimensions we need. Let's create a sketch on this bottom edge here. That'll be fine. And then we'll just draw a rectangle from one corner to the other corner. Remember to make it snap with the orange. Now we could have used the existing sketch one, but I'm just going to hide that sketch and use this continuous rectangle here. Sorry, square. Let's use the extrude tool, and we will select sketch 4. It's going upwards, we don't want that, so let's bring it the other way. And we don't want to add it. Can we see? We want to create a new part, and let's come down 3 millimeters. Let's see what that looks like. That looks pretty good. And then we'll click OK. And we will call that, you guessed it, base. Now let's just tidy the view up. Let's hide these planes using the hide option. And let's just click on one of these edges just to reorientate the view. So we've got pretty much most of our box made now, which is looking very nice indeed. So one thing we're going to now do is make the lid. Now the lid, if you haven't already seen it in the workshop, is going to be made by laminating up some strips. So we're going to draw some strips on the top of our box. Let's create a sketch. Let's choose any of the top faces as our sketch plane and view normal to. And now we can use the rectangle tool just to draw a series of different sized rectangles, some big, some small, across the top face. We can change these later. We don't need to add dimensions to these. This is just for visual purposes. That's good. And then we'll rotate around to see what it looks like. Super. So let's use the extrude tool and the new option, and we're going to carefully select the parts of the shape that we have just created, and we'll extrude them up 8. Now let's do every other one so it will easily create separate parts for us. There we go, so we've got 4 parts there. We'll use that as one extrude operation, and we can see those parts are appearing down the bottom over here. And then we'll re-show that sketch, create another extrude, and then we'll fill in the gaps. With some more extrudes. Oh, not 3, 8. Awesome. And let's hide that sketch. And we've now got a pretty much finished box. Not quite happy with the dimensions of some of these, so one thing we can do now is go back into this sketch and edit it. Now because we didn't put dimensions, we can literally click on one of these lines and drag it. He says, let's just, okay. And when we let go, if we click on final, it will preview exactly what it's going to do. So let's just redistribute some of these individual lines across the top. Oops, we selected more than one, so let's press space to deselect everything, and then we're able to see what it looks like. Yeah, that's better. I'll click OK. Cool, so we've now made a box in Onshape. Let's change the colours of the size to make it look slightly more realistic, and to do that we will use the appearance panel. We can see we've labelled up all of our sides, and part 6 to 12 are the top. So let's alternate. Let me just double click in this feature here. We can choose a colour. Let's go for a dark brown, and then we'll choose a light brown, and we'll try and alternate. So that was dark, let's make light. Very nice, range of different hardwoods. And the sides, let's make both of a kind of oaky colour. maybe this one. Let's just rotate round so we can see it. Ooh, not green. That'll do. So remember that one there. And the other sides, make them the same colour. And the base will go for just a slightly lighter version. Look at that. So you've now made a very beautiful model of a hardwood box. Now it'll be nice to see inside it. So let's move some of these parts. Let's come down. Let's just increase the size of this part window. Let's select part 6 in my example. It might be different in yours. We're going to hold down Shift and then click on the last one to select all of those top strips that make up the top of the box. And up here we're going to choose Transform, and we're going to choose the option here, Translate by XYZ, and that should give us some arrows here. And if we click on the top arrow and drag it up, we can move all of these parts up a little bit and see inside. And we can do the same thing for the edge parts. Let's select part A2. Let's transform, translate by XYZ. Move that way a bit. And do the same for the other parts. In a future lesson, we'll look at how we use assemblies to do this similar task, but for the sake of this example, it's a good way of visualizing how the different parts fit together. And to then untransform it, we can select, using Shift, all these transform features, right click, go to suppress, and that turns them off, and do it again, turn them on, so we can show someone and investigate how our box is made. If you've done that, give yourself another pat on the back. Well done.